Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Uncovered podcast with Nick and Femi.
Yes, sir. You got the right one this time, brother.
Yes, sir. No, this is real live audience. We're now recording our podcast in front of a live audience.
Yes, sir. You know, kind of similar to, you know how Studio 10 do it in front of their audience and that? Like,
exactly.
We've kind of done the same thing, but on a bigger scale, obviously, because everything we do is always bigger and better. So
bigger. Like, you guys can't see it because it's an audio experience. So we got like, what was it, 10, 30 million people?
10, 30 million.
Yeah.
Oh my God, security, this guy get in, he put it, it's just... You guys didn't see it, that's why.
No, yo, Nick, bro, I think the important thing about this podcast and the way that it works is that it's like a football team. You got to play your position, young boy. You don't make the jokes. You don't make the jokes. You make a joke, you hear this.
What happens when you make a joke?
You know that?
Yeah, you should have just kept out the laugh.
Yeah,
it's like a football team, you know?
It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
Everyone has their day.
Everyone does have their day. But today, the day is both of ours. Because we're talking about a very, very fun, interesting topic, right? Like, we're talking about something that is obviously close to...
It's loud, bro.
No. We're talking about something that's actually obviously close to our hearts, something that we're both experienced and are experiencing.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna be talking about just basically just life, bro. Like the complications and the kind of like the navigations of like not like relationships generally on a theory base, but like also like the practicalities and the intricacies. We're gonna be going into the minutia of relationships. And if any of you guys have never read a dictionary or a book before, minutia means detail. So it's like we're going to be going into really, really understanding the criticals of the relationships from our own personal experiences as well. And yeah, life, bro.
100%. And let me just pray for him real quick. Like, obviously, like, we're not experts when it comes to relationships.
Facts.
We're actually quite new to relationships. Like, I've been in a relationship now going on for 2 years. Actually, my first relationship since 24. Huh? It's going on to 2 years. Oh, let me ask you guys a question. When do you guys count your anniversary? Is it from when you guys were talking, or is it when you actually made the decision?
That's not the question. Official? That's not the question. It's like, how long have you been together? Is what you're saying?
No.
You've been together for 3 years.
We're talking about relationships. I pray for him, but I'm not a relationship expert.
Wait,
so I haven't been in a relationship for...
So you went in a relationship with her before you guys started like being official?
Depends how you define it. But anyways...
That's interesting. It's crazy.
Depends how you define it. But essentially... Yeah. But I want to ask you guys that question. Like, when do you guys kind of count it, right? Because I think that like it's very important. Like, anniversary days of your relationship, you see it so commonly celebrated. So it's like, okay, well, what day is it? Because Femi's obviously doesn't know what day. Because he's just like, oh, you know, it happens from when you guys started talking, but like... No,
there was obviously a day that we made it official. That's our anniversary. That's a different day from how long I've been with
celebrating?
Her. The anniversary, but like what I'm saying to you is like, if someone says, how long have you guys been together? I'm not saying from, like, let's say for example, if me and that girl were 6 months together, right? And then I officially asked her to be my girlfriend on that 6 month mark. And then now from that 6 month mark, we've been together for a year. If someone says, how long have you guys been together? I'm probably going to say 18 months. We've been together 18 months. I've been exclusive with this girl for 18 months.
Okay, well, I guess you can count it from the exclusivity part of it.
Yeah, exclusivity. If you're not exclusive and you guys are just talking, you don't know where each other's at, then that's a very different conversation.
But don't you also feel like still when you make that decision to go from exclusive to like, okay, now we're official, it's like you kind of having that decision within yourself that you've actually, you know, consciously you prepared yourself to, you know, dig really deep. The exclusive part of it is like, it's like the start. Like you go through your honeymoon phase where you're like, we're just trying to get to know each other, see what it's like. And then obviously let's say we passed the honeymoon phase. So now we're exclusive. You're like, I'm still going to suss it out, but I think that I'm ready to take that next step to become exclusive. And after you've taken that next step to become exclusive, now we're official.
That becomes your girlfriend,
That's right. So wouldn't you count it from that point? Like, even though you guys have been together, it's like the decision where I've actually said to myself, you know, this is when I'm actually going to like really treat this
the exclusive part.
So then the exclusive part. No, but I'm saying I'm still actually talking about the relationship part. Like at the relationship part, don't you still want to, isn't that the time where you're like, okay, this is how long we've been together officially for? Like
100%. Yeah, I get that. But like if someone asks you like, if you guys have been together exclusively for a year before you decided to man up and ask her out.
Yeah. I know this guy's acting like he's taking a shot at me.
Crazy,
I know he's taking a shot at me.
You love to see it. You love to see it. No, but seriously, but like if you guys have been together for a year exclusively or whatever, I'm not saying you. I'm not saying your situation, right? If you know, you know.
Yeah,
if you know, you know. No, but seriously, like I'm not saying your situation, but what I'm getting at is that like, if you've been exclusive with this girl for a year, right, and you guys have been just for whatever reason, you never said, officially, under the pretense you guys already knew that you guys were exclusive, you guys were already together, right? But then after a year, you officially said, do you want to actually be my girlfriend? That whole year is irrelevant? Of course not, bro.
Of course it's not irrelevant. No one's saying it is, but let me
like,
pose this question to you.
Pose it. Hold on.
Yes, sir. So let's say, for example, obviously you guys are official now 4 years.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to count it from, whether you said it's official or when you're exclusive, whatever. And now, obviously, the whole conversations now moving on to like engagement and getting married, right?
Yes.
But you said like, look, obviously I got plans to engage you. Like that's the obvious thing.
Yes, sir.
But then you engage her maybe a year after you had that conversation. Are you saying now you've been engaged for a year because you already had the pretense that you were going to engage her, and you guys had that mutual understanding, or you got to count it from when you actually proposed?
That's a very good question. I know that you're trying to find me, but I think it's different. You're trying to catch me.
Answer the question though.
No, but of course not. But it's very different.
No.
It's because it's crazy. It's a very different conversation because it's like you've already been together. Like that's an official date. If somebody said like, how long have you guys been dating, boyfriend and girlfriend for? That's a different question from how long you guys been together for. That's what I'm saying. You're asking different questions.
So if I say I've been in a relationship, so we obviously started talking about I've been in a relationship for, not being together. So does that mean that my point's correct then?
That's crazy.
Give it a clap, baby.
Nah, well done, young boy. Well done.
Yes, but I'd love to hear you guys' opinion on this though, 'cause I think this is a fascinating conversation.
I think so too. We've had a lot of arguments about this, but like it is what it is. Anyway, that's not even what we're going to be talking about. What we're actually talking about is like expectations that we put on our partners, right? And I think that it's something that is really, really interesting because Nick's been in a relationship for going on 3-4 years, right? And
damn, that whole conversation was irrelevant.
No, but Nick's been in a relationship for like 18 months, right? 18 months.
Yeah, soon in 2 years in September officially. Yeah.
It's crazy. I've been in a relationship for like 6 months now, right? So is
that the official what?
Suck me off.
Yeah.
No, but I've been together with her for about 6 months now, right? So like in comparison to young Neezy, I'm quite new to this, right? And it's like we're just having conversations about navigating the waters because even though Nick's been in a relationship for 2 years or whatever it is now, it's still new in comparison to someone that's been in a relationship for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's still, if you ask someone that's been married, you realize that like the first 2 years you don't know shit.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like we're just trying to think about. We're having a conversation because there was a scenario where someone we knew and their partner had an argument, right? Let me give you guys the scenario.
That was good.
So two young.
You should just said it,
huh?
You should just said it instead of that voice.
Two young lovebirds, right? They're chilling, right? And they're going there. And this one of the man of the situation, he's a hard guy, bro. He's just kind of like very direct, very assertive, very blunt. And the other person is also quite like that. But they're both quite fiery personalities, I would say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%.
100%, yeah. So they don't have a lot of arguments, but they obviously, if they have points, like they'll both say their points, right? So one day, the man asked the question, was like, let's say for example, it's, I'm going to finish uni this year, right? Something stupid, right? I'm going to finish uni this year. And the guy's like, I thought you were going to finish next year. She's like, nah, bro, I'm finishing this year. Like, I told you. And he's like, but I thought that you were going to finish next year because we had plans to do da 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 da. Anyway, and she's like, no, like we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
And got a bit, not aggressive, but like assertive.
Yeah.
Right? And the guy was basically like, chill. Like, don't disrespect me Yeah, in my own house, nigga. Do not disrespect me in my own house.
Yeah.
So he basically didn't like that. And it wasn't like he was angry at that. It was just more just like, yo, chill. Like, watch your tone real quick because there's no need for that. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't understand. That person just didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then that person was like, yo, nah, like I'm not on it. And it was like, boom. Anyway, it started an argument because the female didn't understand what was kind of like his point. She genuinely thought it was about her raising her voice to him, right? And I think there wasn't enough communication. So we're trying to discuss this because it's kind of like, yo, a lot of the times we put these expectations on people to either understand what we mean without properly communicating it, or we expect somebody to do shit without actually saying that that's one of your expectations.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're trying to navigate, we're trying to think about, because something that I do as well. It's like, you can't be upset about unestablished expectations.
Exactly. That's so true, man. And I think that, like Femi said, this is like an open discussion. Like literally we were talking about it and then Femi's like, you know what, let's talk about it on the podcast. So here we are. This is legit, raw, authentic kind of conversations that Femi and I have on a daily basis. You guys are about to hear it. So honestly, bro, like to give a bit more context so the guys kind of know what's going on, we're at the point where we're, like Femi said, we're trying to figure out, you know, what expectations, what standards is like. I want to try to get away from this right or wrong. It's more about a matter of like, okay, like what is the best approach here for us to ensure that exactly. So this doesn't happen in the future. And when Femi shared that story with me, my kind of immediate thought process, I started to reflect back on my previous relationship when I first started. Obviously being new to it, never been, I'm actually a proper official with a girl. I had all these expectations, and this was a time in my life where I was, you know, super ambitious, super driven, super like tunnel vision on like, this is what I want to do. And a lot of the time as a result of that, obviously my other girl, she's still ambitious and driven, but not to the same kind of degree that I was at.
Definitely.
So yeah, there was a lot of different kind of big discussions, big arguments, big lot of misunderstandings as a result of us going through that phase. And some of the big things that I learned is like kind of like what Femi was saying, is that it all comes down ultimately to communication, like being effective with communication. But when I say communication, because we all kind of hear it, I want to go into a little bit of the specifics around it.
The what?
The specifics, baby.
The minutia.
Oh, the minutia. Right.
Come on. That's the word of the day. If you learn anything from this podcast, you learn the word minutia.
So like, for me, what's something that I've been implementing or trying to implement in my relationship is that to be completely transparent with everything, right? Yeah. And I'm a big believer is that I don't like to, sometimes what we used to find in our relationship is that we'd have something that was bothering us a while ago, and then, you know, we ignore it. And then a couple weeks later, we may say something that's minor and it's going to trigger that. And then she becomes up completely angry, completely assertive, completely this. And you're just like, yo, like what the hell? Don't talk to me like that. Yes. And what I've learned from that is that there's always an underlying issue from the back of it because of lack of communication, lack of transparency, that these kind of things manifested. So one of the big things that I was kind of like talking at that point is that we need to kind of establish a very, very transparent communication method between you guys so that these kind of things can be eliminated. And it's really important for like the other person, whoever's receiving it, or both of you guys, because you guys are both in the relationship, to obviously agree and understand what that actually looks like. What do you kind of think about that?
100%, bro. I think that it's like everything you said is 100%. It's like there's a difference between talking and communicating. Yeah. And I think that there's that's something that I'm learning, you know what I mean? Even just in my own life, not just in my relationship, but I think that relationships take it to a whole new level.
So what does that actually look like, Bart? So it's like, okay, I think because we try to take everyone's kind of like method towards this, and I just want to say for you guys, like, don't kind of listen to our method or what it is that we're suggesting, because every relationship is different. Like, a relationship is your relationship for a reason. Yes, exactly. So you guys got to figure out what works best for you. Yes. So just with that same scenario, because obviously this is still, the story you were sharing wasn't a resolved story. It's still kind of like in the air. It's still in the air, yeah. What are you kind of thinking from, what do you think about if you were to do something like that? Do you think that would make a difference? Communicate. No. But like just set something kind of like, obviously communication, we know that, but set some kind of like expectation. Well, standard. Is it a standard thing, or what? Actually, from that story, what do you think the root issue is? I think the root issue is that the man feels disrespected. Okay.
I think he feels disrespected for a variety of reasons, right? It might be, I think that in that situation, it's not just that one incident that's an isolated incident and his reaction to that. There's definitely other stuff that's happened.
Always.
That makes it feel like that was just enough. And that's what's happening.
So let me just stop you there. Two things. Do you think, one, obviously knowing you before, do you think there's an element of that disrespect that's coming from a place of ego?
Yeah.
For sure.
What? The answer is yes.
I didn't see you going to say yes like that. I was wow, I almost forgot the second point. And the second point I was going to say, part of it being ego.
So yeah, the answer is yes. I think that it's I think that if this was me in this situation, I think that for me personally, it would be an ego thing. It's like, I'm the man, don't raise your voice. I'm the man, like, don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Even though, like, but still, seriously, like, no one should disrespect you as a man, women, doesn't matter. Like, no one should talk down to you ever. But I think that the reason why it felt more painful to the guy, or it would feel more painful to me, is because I'd be like, yo, forget this, bro. Like, even generally in my life, and also this person's life as well, he's pretty dominant in his life.
Yeah.
Like, in his life, there's not much areas that he isn't the alpha, right? Okay. So it's kind of like to come into a relationship where, you can't always just be this big alpha dog all the time, right? It's a learning curve for them, right? Because he hasn't been in that relationship for that long either, right? So it's a learning curve for him. So he's trying to navigate. This is just me trying to get into his head and just saying my own opinion about it, right? So it's kind of like he's trying to navigate what's going on in that life because he's like, yo, like, I feel disrespected because, like, I feel like my points were not heard. I wasn't heard. I don't like not being heard, which will basically be going down to a deeper issue. And you can keep going deeper if you wanted to. And it probably comes down to some kind of trauma, right? So it's kind of like, it's obviously a real issue in the situation that's making that person feel that way. So I think that, like, long story short, I think that before we get angry or before we kind of like react or whatever, the first time we need to just kind of analyze why we're feeling that way. Very important, but it's very hard to do in a relationship.
Yeah, 100%. So what do you think? Because like you said, coming from two different kind of backgrounds, what would you recommend? Do you think that it's effective for people to have like one, I don't know how I would frame the conversation, but like kind of think of it this way where, like, some people in relationships, let's say we talk about like wealthy people coming into a relationship together, one of the first things that they talk about is the finances, and they're completely acceptable with that, which is a very kind of like, ooh, so like straight away, but also quite relevant because it sets the foundation of the relationship. Do you think there's any kind of foundational conversations where some people are coming from two different opposing kind of life situations, where someone might be a bit more like determined, driven, effective, where someone else is a little bit more laid back, chill, but obviously both, not to say that either are good or bad, both have their beauties to it
and also have their down points as
well. So it's like what kind of things that looks like, because in my experience I really wished that was a conversation that I had at the start, because
what
having a conversation, okay,
about
like what
finances?
is this? Not finances, more around the point of like, okay, like I'm here, like this is some things that I'm working towards. This is where you're at. Kind of like a situation where we do like a health check on where we're currently going at the moment, and we assess everything on a holistic point of view. It's like, okay, well, this is where I'm at. These are some of my core values. These are my non-negotiables. This is what I'm doing. Where are you at with that? And you kind of set that that foundation at the start, so that a lot of those things that obviously won't be fixed immediately, but will end up kind of resolve, or kind of like becoming a bit more aware to people as the relationship goes on. Because the hardest thing is where like you realize this has been an issue for 8 months in the relationship, and now you've already done so many different things for 8 months. She's kind of got her own kind of expectations of what this relationship looks like, and then you try to introduce something different at the end.
So what are you asking me?
So I'm asking you, do you think something like that is effective to people to do?
Bro, so effective. Like in my relationship now, the big thing that I've learned from my boys, you, all my other boys in the situation.
Go on.
No, but like I don't want to bait them out. Yeah, I mean. So everybody else is kind of like, the one thing they keep telling me is like, bro, like do the important shit at the start. Like really figure shit out at the start, because once you have all that issues and you squash all the issues at the start, shit gets easier. And it's so true, right? And you don't want to have a situation where, there's like, I have boys that are in relationships 2 years down the track, and there's like real fundamental differences that they're trying to figure out that could have been established at the start. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's kind of like, that's what I've learned from it. So like at the start of my relationship, that's a lot of what we've been doing. We've had a lot of really mature conversations, bro.
Yeah.
Like really mature about finances, life goals, where you want to be, family, religion, for like views on political issues, like really, really deep shit that at the start of the relationship, it's usually just having fun and just having fun with the person. But I also think that when you're having these deep conversations, like you're saying, and really having these conversations, you actually get to know the person on a deeper level.
100%.
Because it's like, we think that the first 6 months we're just getting to know them by just knowing what they like and what they dislike. That's not what you're getting to know someone. What's the characteristics of somebody is like their values, their moral standings, their expectations, their standards, their culture, their family. That's the real shit, right? Yeah. Not they like the same music as me.
Like everything you said, that's their identity.
That's the identity. Everything else changes with time. Everything can change, but that's the stuff that is fluid consistently. Your culture hasn't changed in the last 10 years, but your music taste might have. Do you get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like the things that we're getting to know each other in the first 4 months, like what the cultural norms of getting to know each other, sex, food, music, personality in terms of like funny, serious. That shit is shit that's changed probably year by year.
Exactly.
But we're not going to real, what are your values, bro?
Yeah.
Like what do you actually care about?
Yeah.
And we're not having those conversations. That's why so many relationships are flopping, bro. And they're flopping at like stages where everybody's like, oh, why are they flopping now? They were just about to get married. Because they didn't do
exactly.
They didn't know each other really.
It's crazy because I think a lot of people, because you see it, it's common where people like they just get engaged, marriages. I mean, the wedding's probably going to happen in like a week or 2 weeks, and then suddenly, it's caught off.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And what I think a lot of people go through, obviously, there's no like data behind this, but like my own kind of opinion on this is that I think that people start to then ask themselves the serious questions, like you identified. It's like, oh, can I actually do this for the rest of my life? When you start going through, okay, what vows am I actually going to say on this day? They're like, oh, I've never actually committed to that myself prior or those times till I got to this day. And that's when people start to pull out, which I think is very interesting. But it makes perfect sense as to why that happens.
100%, bro. Like I think that it's something that's consistently happening. We're seeing it.
Yeah.
We're seeing it time and time again because like people don't like to be sincere with themselves. And I think my theory is that people don't like to be sincere with themselves because they don't want to know the answer.
Yeah.
That this bad thing, like she's fire. She's fire and she's also nice.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like, oh, she's lit, right?
Yeah.
But you know that if I ask these real questions, I'm not sure I'm going to get the answer I want. I'm not sure that this person is the person I want to actually raise my children.
So what are you hiding from this? Like, that's the question. Like, what do you...
You don't want it to end, bro. It's just like if you're eating something, right? And you're eating dried mangoes.
Yeah. If
I was to be honest with myself, I know that shit's not good for me.
Yeah.
But I just, in my head, I'm like, it's better than lollies, right? So, you know what I mean? So I'm eating dried, because I gave up lollies, guys, just if you don't know. But I've been eating dried mangoes, right? And it's something I think eventually I'm going to have to give that up too, because it's not good. It's a lot of sugar in that.
Exactly.
Anyway, but it's the same thing. It's like, I want to believe that dried mangoes are so good for me because I've had other bullshit before. I know this is so much better, but like it's actually not. I'm not there yet, so I'm giving that excuse. I don't want to ask myself that real question in terms of like, is it actually good for me? I don't want to read the packaging.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't want to do the research to figure out its nutritional benefits.
Exactly,
because I'm just like but it's just like it's fruit.
Yeah, it can't be.
It can't be that bad.
Yeah. Same
way that you've got a girl that's fire and she's nice enough. But you don't want to ask her the real questions, bro. What are your views on X? What happens if this happens?
Yeah.
What are your views on divorce, bro? What are your views? What are our views politically? Sounds stupid, but what are your views politically? What are your views like in terms of spiritual shit?
Yeah. I think those are such great questions. There's so much I want to go into in this
Let's
podcast.
Do it, bro. We'll do 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
But there's one thing I think we will continue on because I wanted to ask about why people kind of feel that way, maybe why people don't. I was going to kind of go around the lungs because like it's just uncomfortable conversations. So it's like, okay, we need to be a bit more comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations as we're probably seeing right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. But I won't kind of go into those details. We can save that for another episode. But I want to bring it back to kind of the root of how we started this conversation, which was, the boys angry, frustrated. We've identified what we think the issues are, but the emotion is still there. So what do we do?
I think the only thing you can do, bro, is just communicate. Like you said, it's just like, yo, you just be like, yo, babes, this is why I'm pissed off at you, right? And I think that the reason why I'm pissed off at you is because of this in myself. This is what it is in myself, first of all.
Yeah, I like that. I was going to say, like, that's a really good kind of like, not, like it's a good mediator to be like, well, like, let me first identify that it's because of me. Yeah. But let me continue. So it doesn't turn into an argument.
Exactly. And the reason why, the only role that you played is you just triggered it. Yeah. I think that's important to note it. No,
that's a good point.
Because that's the way that I've been trying to, like, that's something that I've learned in my own relationship in terms of like apologizing effectively, is you got to identify that it's you. In reality, it's you. Like, if someone comes and slaps me in the face, it's me, right? They triggered it by slapping me in the face, whatever. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, you gotta identify, like, yo, this is me, and that's how you grow. And you just let that person know what their behavior was that triggered it. Because then what they're gonna do is be able to, like, oh shit, like, this is the behavior that I'm exhibiting that's triggering this. I'm not in trouble, right? Because now it doesn't become a coming at you thing. That person doesn't feel like they need to defend themselves.
Exactly.
So they're not coming at you, right? So it's like, yo, Nick, I'm angry at you because I have a lot of these issues and I'm struggling with this, and it's really, really painful for me because I feel disrespected in my life sometimes, and I feel like when people do this shit, it disrespects me. And I feel like when you raise your voice at me, it triggered that. Does that make sense to you? And they're gonna be like, yo, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you can have that discussion. Not that, bro, like, you don't ever in your life think that you can raise your voice at me.
Exactly.
It's like, who the hell are you?
Exactly. Like, who are you to put restrictions on my life?
I can say whatever I want.
Exactly.
And then that's how resentment grows.
And that's not what we're trying to achieve. What you want to achieve is that it's like, well, we're in this together. Exactly. I love you. So if this is what pisses you off, I'm going to try my best to limit that. Not because I feel like I'm restricted, but it's because I care for this relationship.
100%. And if that person is still doing that after you've made that being clear from that perspective, you need to really evaluate that person's role in your life. Real shit.
100%. But that was sick, man. I think that was I actually really liked this episode. Yeah, that was a good episode.
I had a lot of fun.
So yeah, man, I kind of like to kind of dig deep into these in a bit more detail future moving forward, but for now, I guess that kind of wraps it up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So anyways, you guys know what to do anyway. This was another episode of the Uncovered Podcast with Nick and Femi.
Buongiorno.
What?
Buongiorno.
Yeah, right.
Yo, shout out to my missus.
Buongiorno.
So we're coming back with that fire. We're really coming back to really, support you guys as much as we can. This is all a mental health, well-being thing that we're trying to really just dig into you guys. And it's funny because we talk a lot about different tangibles and different methods and stuff, which we try to do because as human beings, that's in our nature. But it all really comes down to the root of this whole conversation was self-awareness. Yes. Which is what we always talk about. So make sure you guys are reflecting, practicing that. And we'll see you guys in another episode.
Yes, sir.